In this pod, we'll take a look at how youth culture developed in America in the 1950s and 60s.
The term youth culture refers to the lifestyles, interests, habits and values of teenagers. However, the concept of youth culture, as well as the term teenager itself, only emerged in the 1940s and 50s. Before this time, people were either adults or children. As soon as you left school, you went straight to work. After the Second World War, however, the booming economy meant that young people had more free time and more money to spend than ever before. They were encouraged to stay in school longer, as there was less pressure on them to get jobs. This meant more time and money for leisure, opening up a whole new lucrative market for businesses to take advantage of.
In addition, young people in the 50s lived under a bigger threat than previous generations. The idea that with the push of a button the world could be destroyed by nuclear war may have led to a mindset of living in the moment. They drank more heavily, drove fast cars, and rebelled against the fashions, music and values of their parents. This difference in culture and values is known as the generation gap.
The idea of the radical, rebelling teenager can be seen in the cinema of the time. For example, James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. Dean's death in a car crash, aged just 24, made him something of a cult icon. The popularity of rock and roll music during the 50s also helped to carve out the identity of this new teenage generation.
Young people began to adopt their own distinct fashions and styles of dress. They made deliberate attempts to stand out from mainstream society and challenge dominant cultural values. This is known as counterculture. In the 1960s, hippies grew their hair long and wore bright, flowing, colourful clothes. Many were involved in taking illegal drugs and promoted peace and sexual freedom, as epitomised in the popular slogan, "Make love, not war."
The summer of 1967 is known as the Summer of Love, and it saw tens of thousands of hippies travel to San Francisco. They disliked everything that mainstream American society stood for, and many took a stand by not working. This led to a lot of friction and criticism from older generations. In 1969, the Woodstock Festival took place in New York. It was promoted as 3 days of peace and music, and is widely seen as an important cultural moment and the peak of the hippie movement. Roughly 500,000 people gathered to watch artists such as the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix, and to promote the values of peace, love and freedom.